Good morning, everybody, and welcome into Hog Hoops Live, episode number 7. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson. You can find me alongside Trey Biddy and Danny West over on the team at HawgSports.com. Listen, the Muss Bus was in the ditch after last week, and I'm not saying it's coasting down the highway again after last night's win over Auburn, but dang it, they're at least back on the road. We're going to dive into what has been an insane last several days for Arkansas basketball. Take a look ahead as the Hogs look to build a little bit of momentum going into a favorable stretch of games. All that coming your way and more on Hog Hoops Live. All right, everybody, before we get started, as always, want to remind you all the ways that you can watch or listen. You can like our Hog Sports page here on Facebook. Obviously, if you're tuned in now, you're taking a look at that. You can subscribe to our Hog Hoops Live YouTube page. Make sure if you haven't done that already to go ahead and knock that out for us. And then if you're a podcast listener, you can find us on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, same place that you listen to Hog Sports Live with Trey on a weekly basis. Throw us a like, a 5-star review, leave a comment. All those things are greatly appreciated. Let's get that out of the way. Voila, and moving on. Okay, a lot has happened since the last time we've met. My goodness. Arkansas had a brutal week last week. We talked about it. The last show we did was after that LSU game, and, things actually got a little bit worse over the weekend at Alabama. The team, it was the craziest thing. I mean, they looked overmatched. There were some effort issues, whatever was going on, the team was in a funk. There was no doubt about it, and coming into this Auburn game last night, a lot of folks were looking at it as a must-win. I get it. I'm not talking about for NCAA tournament hopes, things like that. I'm talking about so the season doesn't blow up right before our eyes. I mean, it was looking rough. Things were bleak, right? Well, Arkansas hosts Auburn last night, and I mean, was that a wild one or what? For the first 15 minutes or so of the first half, I was legitimately worried that this team was broken. I mean, I don't know another way to say it. 3 games in a row where they come out just so flat and kind of getting boat raced right out of the gates. Another sloppy offensive start. I think they started like 3 of 20 shooting from the field. I mean, come on, right? Auburn's shooting 60% naturally. I mean, you get down by as many as 19 there midway through the first half, and, at home, and you're thinking, holy crap, this is horrible. Arkansas already beat this team by a dozen. I know they added a player, but you're on your home floor. It was inexplicable. I haven't really seen anything like that. It was almost like Space Jam. I know everybody's watched that movie, but you remember when the aliens come in, they steal all the basketball talents away from the NBA players. I'm not exaggerating. That's what it looked like. It looked like they forgot how to play. Guards couldn't dribble. Justin Smith, he's back, but he's, every shot he throws up is getting swatted away. Sharif Cooper's out there for Auburn. He's looking like Allen Iverson. Bud Walton-Arena was getting restless, man. I mean, folks were wondering what in the world was going on. Finally, with just under 5 minutes left until halftime, something changed. I don't know what it was. The switch flipped, the light bulb turned on, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. But they looked like a completely different team. It was a night and day difference. It was crazy. Made a decent little run there. Like I said, they were down 19, went into the half down 43-31. So you cut it down to a dozen. You still want to be closer than that at home, but at the same time, you just had a feeling that some momentum was building for Arkansas. It looked like, for the first time in over a week, that they were enjoying playing basketball. They had a little bit of confidence, a little bit of swagger. Eric Musselman talked about, getting back to playing with some joy and passion. You could see that. A little bit of momentum going into halftime, and then just an incredible second half effort, honestly. So many things to highlight from that. I wrote an article about the defense, just first of all, I thought it was an incredible adjustment by Eric Musselman to start bringing a double team or a trap at Sharif Cooper in the second half. You got to get the ball out of that dude's hands. I mean, in the first half, he's just so slippery You can't guard him one-on-one, especially if they bring their bigs out and are able to get any kind of ball screen on whoever was guarding him, whether it was Tate or Devo or Desi, whoever. That dude's getting to the rim. And he's such a playmaker. I mean, he can get in there and finish. He was more of a scorer last night. But his vision and the way he's able to thread the needle and find some guys with these passes, it's unreal. You had to get the ball out of his hands. So they started throwing a double team at him, forcing him when he came across half court to make that first pass. Just get the ball out of his hands. Maybe he gets it back, maybe he doesn't, but he's not going to run the entire possession offensively. I thought that was a great move. He finished with 25 points, means a game high, but he was held to 4 assists. This is a guy who was averaging nearly 10 per game coming in. Held him to 4 assists and 4 turnovers. That was key. That was absolute key. And you talk about some of the guys for the Razorbacks. I mean, Desi Sills, welcome back, dude. I mean, where have you been? You think back to the questions and concerns over the course of the last week when it comes to who's the leader on this team. It's Desi, period. For better or worse, right? But when that dude brings it, the team feeds off of his energy in such a big way. You need it consistently from him. I'm not even talking about scoring and all that, but just the energy. He was incredible. He was relentless last night, driving, getting to the rim, 22 points, really a great breakout performance. We talked to him after the game. You really like some of the things that he was saying about how, he acknowledged he was in a slump, and it's no secret to anyone that the man was struggling, but, he kept talking about how his teammates kept picking him up, and encouraging him, keeping him going. That's something that you really like to hear. Anytime a team starts losing a couple games, you start seeing all those questions pop up about what's going on in the locker room, what's going on behind the scenes, are there chemistry issues and things like that. But then, obviously things are a little bit better after a win, but, to hear Desi say things like that about the guys picking him up, and encouraging him and kind of willing him through it, that's big. That's important. Really like to see that. Jalen Tate, a little better. Hey, he made some big shots. Did some really good things defensively. He's still turning the ball over too much at that point guard position. 5 turnovers, 5 assists, so has to be a little bit better. Justin Smith, back his second game, I thought maybe he caught his wind a little bit in the second half. Like I said, early in the game, he was getting a lot of good looks. He was posting up and around the rim, and they were just swatting away every shot he took. It seemed like, and you're thinking, man, does he just not have his explosiveness back with that ankle? Is he not? We know he's not 100% yet, but is he 50%? What's going on? I thought he did a really good job in the second half. He's kind of a niche player, right? He's a rim runner in transition. He's a high flyer that you can lob it up to. We saw that. Really impressive lob from Tate, I believe it was, for a big dunk that got the crowd going. I want to talk about that crowd in a minute, by the way. But, he's not a three-point shooter. He's not really a back-to-the-basket power guy. I think he needs to catch it, in the short corner or maybe at the elbow, rip it and go to the rim, and then get on the glass. That's where he makes his money on the offensive end. Obviously, terrific on the defensive end. Jalen Williams, man, listen, you want to talk about a guy that's emerging. He's somebody we've talked about it. He's really developed his role based on hustle and defense and effort and energy and things like that. He's doing the same things last night. He's taking charges, blocking shots, diving for loose balls. But he showed some of that offensive promise that we've heard about and that we've talked about. Had a really nice play. It's kind of a lazy pass coming his way on the wing. And one of Auburn's guards was trying to come through and poke it out from him, and he had a behind-the-back dribble and drove it to the rim and finished. It was fancy. You see guards doing that kind of thing. Finally, and he's passed up so many open threes, but finally he catches one in rhythm, pulls up, drills it, big three during the run there early in the second half. And then people talk about his athleticism. He's not the most bouncy guy in the world, but did you see that putback dunk that put the Razorbacks ahead? That was incredible. It was a great play. I thought he did some really good things offensively. Another freshman, Devo Davis, he came in just so scrappy. Kind of got back to, what he does best. Just bring that effort and that energy. He was ticked off at Sharif Cooper. Sometimes those little guards that are so crafty, and they'll take off dribbling, they'll get by you, and they know that the defender's playing catch up, and they just stop, and you run into them and pick up the foul. I hate when guards do that. And he did it to Devo one time, and you could tell Devo was ticked off about it. Cooper was flopping quite a bit throughout the night. I think he got warned for it once, but it kind of flipped a switch on Devo, man. He started really getting after it, did a good job. I thought he made some big shots and some big plays. Did struggle a little bit down the stretch. We'll talk about that stretch at the end after Tate fouled out, and he took the point guard position over late, and wasn't pretty. But it's a learning experience, right? Moses Moody got clamped up a little bit, but he made some big plays down the stretch. Obviously came up with a huge rebound and a free throw there at the end. JD Note earned his first start, kind of a little bit of a no-show. He didn't really bring it offensively like you'd hope to see from him. It's kind of a run of a couple games where he hasn't really gotten it going offensively. I think he'll probably be back in that 6-man role moving forward. Got a little spark in that first half. I thought Vance Jackson might have been the guy that ignited it a little bit when he came in. The Hogs are struggling to find any points, and he came in and drilled a 3, and it kind of brought a little bit of life into the gym. He didn't do a whole lot after that, but I thought that was a big shot there in the first half. Vanover, he started. I didn't think he played that bad last night. I thought Jalen Williams was just great, and that's who you had to roll with there. Really solid win. They needed that. The execution late in the game, it's crazy. You're down by 19. Eventually you built up an 8-point lead in the final minutes, and the execution wasn't great down the stretch. So still having some trouble breaking a press. And, that was a little bit of an issue last year. It was amplified, I thought, last night with your point guard, Jalen Tate being out, and then Note wasn't on the floor there either. So Devo had the tough pass on the inbounds, and he got his pocket pick there, and all of a sudden it's like a 3-point game. Maybe it was a 1-point game actually. Things really tightened up. They eventually went to Desi Sills and to get the ball down the floor. The couple times they did break the press in those final couple minutes, you basically had 2 shot clock violations. It's cool. You want to run some clock at least, but you got to at least get a shot off. I think maybe it was Devo that had one kind of blocked, just kind of a last-second effort around the rim, and then they brought Note in. He'd been sitting on the bench forever. Then he gets in there, and he kind of gets caught in no man's land in an ISO situation and double clutches and shot clock violations. So wasn't great there, but they held on for the win, right? Because they executed, on the defensive end on the last possession. That was scary. That was a tense moment. 1-point game and 25 seconds left, and here comes Sharif Cooper, who's just been slicing you up, during the game, getting to the rim, and he comes off of that ball screen, driving left, which he loves to do, with a head of steam, and you're thinking, man, this guy's going to finish this, isn't he? But, hey, Arkansas walled up. Maybe you fouled him, maybe you didn't, right? But at that point in the game, that's such a hard call for an official to make. Such a hard call for an official to make. He misses a shot. Moody secures the rebound, which was huge, and then goes to the free throw line. Naturally, he misses the front end. It was a little bit of a surprise to me that Bruce Pearl called a timeout right there, with 2.4 seconds left. I think he did it to kind of ice Moses and set up his last play. Moses comes back out and he makes the free throw, and then Auburn honestly got about as good of a look as you can get with that little time. But it does fall short. So Arkansas hangs on for the win. Like I said, much needed victory, a feel-good win. I thought Musselman's press conference afterwards was really interesting. We kind of asked him what changed to get those guys going there towards the end of the first half, and he literally just said, "I felt like we played again." That's a simple answer, but it really speaks volumes to what this team has looked like the past week. Should that ever really be an issue? How do you not play in huge games like you had huge opportunities at LSU and Alabama last week? It's interesting. That's part of the reason I still do have some concerns moving forward just because of the lack of consistency. We've seen how good this team can be. We've seen how bad they can be. Got to be consistently good to win in this league. And last night was definitely a step in the right direction there. It's a happy locker room. Musselman said probably a mixture between excitement and, just relief. It almost felt like everybody could exhale a little bit. I'm happy for them. They had fun again. They're passionate, intense. To me, that's what it's all about. I can handle Arkansas basketball losing games. That's going to happen, right? I'm not irrational. I understand that. But losing games when you don't even look like you want to be out there, with kind of some off body language, you don't know, if the effort and the chemistry and things like that, that's not the foundation this program was built on. Tons of work still left to be done. I wouldn't be fooled into thinking that all of a sudden all is well and that these guys are just going to be rolling. Still a lot to clean up. But man, it's good to see them playing the right way again. Really good to see. Good to see Musselman up on the bench going crazy, back to his his ways over there on the sidelines. And Desi Sills mentioned that part of what got them going was seeing Musselman's energy and his enthusiasm on the bench. It's tough to maintain that when you're struggling the way Arkansas has the last couple games, but again, certainly a step in the right direction. Something else I thought was interesting, Muss talked about how he's shortening the rotation moving forward. He's done trying to please everybody in terms of playing time. He's been playing at pretty much everyone, 9, 10 guys. He's going to go back to his comfort zone at 6, 7. And he did that in the second half last night. And, he basically said, unless Arkansas comes out looking like, the Walking Dead again, he's not going to budge on it. Tightening things up. I wonder who those guys are going to be. Tate, Sills, Moody, Justin Smith, Jalen Williams. At this point, it seems to me like that's your starting 5, I think. Devo and Note. I think Note's still going to play. Coming off the bench is some scoring pop. Devo brings the energy. I like that. That's 7 right there. Maybe very, very short stints for guys like Vanover or Jackson on a given night, depending on matchups, if you need a little bit more size. But I think that top 7 there gets the lion's share of the minutes now, in my opinion. Got Vanderbilt coming up this weekend on Saturday, maybe. We'll see about that. Vandy was set to play Texas A&M last night. That game was postponed due to positives and contact tracing, COVID, and all that going on within Vanderbilt's program. Last I heard, it sounds like that game is still expected to be played. I guess if that changes while we're live here, somebody throw a comment in and let me know. But, it sounds like they're going to try to make that happen. It's kind of a weird situation. Vanderbilt had a game with Tennessee postponed in the midweek last week, but then they were able to turn around and play them on Saturday. I don't know, how their, contact tracing and rules and things like that work. Then now they have another midweek canceled this week against A&M, and they think they're going to play Arkansas on Saturday. I figure we'll probably hear something definite today, because Arkansas is going to have to hit the road, tomorrow if they're going to go play. I feel bad for Vanderbilt. Across the athletics department, they're really struggling. I know Nashville, I guess, is kind of a hotbed with everything right now, but their football team struggled. With testing and things like that. The women's basketball program has kind of went ahead and scrapped the season. The men have had 7 games canceled this year. It's unreal. 7 games canceled. Still, we talk about Arkansas's non-conference schedule and things like that, but man, at least they got to play. In a year like this, you're just happy to see the kids get the chance to play. Assuming it does happen, you take a look at Vandy. 4-6 overall. They're winless in the SEC. I don't think it's a given that Arkansas is just going to walk in there and win the game. You ever seen that place? It's kind of a weird place to play. And you add on to that, it's one of those places where the benches are like below the floor, and you're kind of like at eye level with the floor. It's kind of a weird environment. Then you add on to that, it's going to be empty. I'm not talking empty like, Bud Walton can hold 19,000 or whatever and there's $4,000 in there. I'm talking empty like I think they're just allowing parents and immediate family in. So then, to me, the challenge for Arkansas becomes, can you create your own energy and play with the intensity and passion out on the road in an empty gym that you did last night? Because quite honestly, last night, in my mind, was a little bit of that Bud Walton magic. Call me crazy. I mean, there's 4,000 people or whatever in there, but the crowd willed that team back into the game. I thought that they created and sustained the energy for the guys. They were great. The crowd was fantastic. It was pretty loud. They were a factor. I thought it was really cool. We've seen spurts of that. I thought, there were moments during that Missouri game where, you thought Arkansas was going to get back into it, and then the crowd got going a little bit during that Georgia game. Obviously, that wound up being a blowout, but in a tight game like that against Auburn, 4,000 can make some noise. I thought that was pretty cool. But then you can't turn around and go to sleep through another test on the road. And they've struggled with those early games. It's a noon tip-off, so we'll see. Looking at Vanderbilt, I mean, let me pull up their schedule here. They've taken some beatings, but like I said, 7 games canceled. I mean, they opened their season on November 27th, and they didn't play another game until December 13th, right? So it was almost 3 weeks that they missed, but they beat up on Mississippi Valley State just like everyone has. Poor guys. Lost to Richmond, beat Radford, got blown out by Davidson. But in SEC play, I mean, they've hung tough with a couple teams. They got beat up on a little bit by Florida, but lost by 3 on the road at Kentucky in a game that they were really in control of. I thought throughout I watched that game. Got away from them late. They turned around the next day, or not the next day, but their next game against Mississippi State, who kind of one of the more surprising teams, I think, in the league. They've got a really strong backcourt, but lost that game by 3, in controversial fashion. So there's, 2, middle of the pack type SEC teams, kind of where Arkansas is currently, that, they really hung tough with and just couldn't quite finish. Played Tennessee over the weekend, lost to those guys by 20, and then obviously the A&M game scheduled for last night was postponed. But it's not a given. Coached by Jerry Stackhouse, I think he's starting to do a decent job over there. Not a lot of depth for those guys. But, they do have some players. They've got some pretty good players. They're led by Scottie Pippen Jr. Yes, that's Scottie Pippen's kid. He was there last year. And, I thought really emerged as a nice freshman. He's rolling this year. I mean, he's averaging 21 points per game, shooting at 35% from 3. Really does a nice job of getting to the free throw line. He's definitely going to be the focal point of the scouting report, I'm sure. I mean, we're going to talk to Muss, I think, at 2 o'clock today, and, we'll get the rundown on Vandy and how all that's going to look. But, obviously he's going to be a big part of that. They got, I think a pretty solid big guy in Dylan Disu, 6'9", 220, averaging 13 and 8 for him. He's a guy that can step out and shoot the 3 a little bit. 16 to 42. I mean, it's 38%. It's pretty good. Shooting it okay as a team. For those of you in state, you'll remember the name Isaac McBride. Little Rock product. He signed out of that 2020 class originally to Kansas, and he backed out on that. Maybe it was 2019. I don't know, but he backed out on that and then wound up at Vanderbilt. Thought for a minute Arkansas might take a flyer on him, but he's at Vanderbilt now. Was playing quite a bit early, hasn't so much lately. Obviously a really good 3-point shooter. He's 4 of 17 on the year, but it'd be cool to see him get out there and get after it a little bit. At the end of the day, though, you can't lose this game. Period. You just can't. You can't get some momentum back, against Auburn, and then go drop one on the road to Vanderbilt. So, whether it's by 1 point or 30 or whatever, they got to find a way to get it done. And really, looking at the big picture, you're in a position where you really have to reel off some wins here. It's kind of do or die time. You got Vandy this weekend and Ole Miss at home next week. To me, those are non-negotiables. Those are games you have to win. Two teams, below you in the conference standings. Then I think, if we're talking like your postseason resume and the eye test and things like that, you need to win that Oklahoma State game the following week in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. That's going to be fun over in Stillwater. See if I can actually get over there and cover that game. But you got to prove that you can beat a good team. Talk about that in a sec. Then you come back, you got Mississippi State and Texas A&M at home the following week. Neither of those teams are bad, but if you're legit, right, if you really think you have a shot at the postseason, March Madness, and you belong in the upper tier of the SEC, you don't lose to those guys at home. So am I saying they have to win 5 in a row? Yeah, I am. I mean, I think if you are who you want to be, you'll do that. And if you do, that puts you in a pretty good spot. And you're sitting at 11-4 right now, 3-4 in conference. I mean, how would you feel if in a couple weeks from now you're sitting at 16-4, 6-4 in the league, 7-4, whatever it would be? That changes things. They're capable of doing it. You just got to bring consistency. So important. Before last night, Joe Lunardi, everybody follows his bracketology on ESPN. He still had Arkansas on the field as a 10 seed. So he's starting to teeter towards that bubble naturally. And that's what happens after you have a week like you did last week. But, bracket matrix, which I prefer, it's kind of an average of all the prominent bracketologists. They have you average out at about a 10 seed. You're happy to still be in that conversation, certainly. That's not really where you want to be down the stretch, right? We don't want to be on the bubble. Let's try one of those Arkansas is safely in kind of deals as they go into the SEC tournament and things like that. And again, we don't know what that SEC tournament's going to look like in terms of format and things like that. It's crazy. I mean, South Carolina just got back to playing. I think everybody else has played 6-7 conference games. They're down at 3. Missouri had some postponed. You don't know how you're going to be able to reschedule those. So I don't know how seeding is going to work for that tournament. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think at this point, obviously you want to rack up all the wins that you're supposed to get. Arkansas's done a good job of that so far. I mean, they've, for the most part, well, no, they just have. I mean, they've beat everyone that they're supposed to beat. But they haven't taken that step forward, right, and knocked off, the teams that are in the position where they want to be. That's the only way you're going to get there. You haven't done it yet. It's almost February, right? Your best win, I guess, is Auburn on the road. They're a 500 basketball team. I think Arkansas is good enough, clearly, to beat some of these upper echelon teams. Shot horribly, and you're still in the game against Missouri. Kind of took it to the last minute on the road at Tennessee. I'm done talking about LSU and Alabama, but I mean, it's in there. They just got to get over the hump. You look at those net rankings, which are so important. Arkansas sits at number 38 as of today. I mean, they were as high as 19 a little over a week ago, so you've dropped quite a bit. And really, to me, you can look at this in two ways. I mean, you're 0-4 in quad one games. Quad one games are against those top tier teams, whether it be at home or on the road. So on one hand, 4 of your losses are to, well, all 4 of your losses are to the best teams you played. But you essentially haven't beaten a good team and you're 15 games in. So, those opportunities, the further along you get in the season, they become more, few and far between. So you got to get that done. Dropped to number 45 in KenPom. Arkansas was top 25 a week ago, so they took a hit. Some of the other analytics are more favorable, but those are really the two, the net and KenPom, that I follow most closely. And those need to get better. And I think you can make a little bit of a dent in where you want to be, by racking up some wins, against mediocre and lower level teams in the league. But really to make that huge jump to where you want to be, got to get one of those marquee wins. ESPN's BPI, the Basketball Power Index, they've been pretty high on Arkansas throughout the year. I think they still have them in the top 30, which is nice. But, based on their predictor, they have Arkansas's most likely conference record at the end of the season being 10-8. It probably puts you anywhere from like 5 to 8 in the SEC standings, I guess. Maybe a little, 5 to 7, depending on how things shake out. Is that good enough to get you in to the tournament? I don't know. Maybe, depending on who you beat. Are you able to go steal a quad one win at Oklahoma State next weekend? I think it's such a huge game. You get to get outside of your league, add that marquee non-conference game. And they've got Cade Cunningham, the number 1 pick. They're playing well. I mean, they beat Kansas about a week ago. So I think that's a huge opportunity. And, if you can do that, that's great. And then I think if you find a way to steal, if the predictors are saying 10-8 in the league, it's not a given that that's going to happen. You still got to win the games. But if you could find a way to just really get on a roll and get maybe that 11-7 mark at the end of the season, I think that's what puts you in a really, really good spot. We talked about this stretch right here, but, in kind of the back end, you got to go to Kentucky. Those guys are reeling right now. I mean, if you're ever going to go into Rupp Arena and feel good about your chances of getting a win, this is it. It's lost to Georgia basically on a buzzer beater last night. Really, really struggling, Kentucky. You get the rematch at Missouri after that. I mean, I guarantee you the team is going to be fired up for that one, right? You get Florida, who's been up and down. I mean, they took a couple losses and they blew Tennessee out of the water without half of their team. So you don't really know what to expect from them, but you get them at home at least, which is good. You got a rematch with Alabama and LSU coming back to your gym. I think you can give LSU a battle, especially with Justin Smith back. That changes things for you defensively. Alabama, I don't know. Those guys are rolling. Did you see what they did to LSU the other day? It's incredible. Got to find a way to slow down that offensive attack. I mean, those guys are shooting it. You get South Carolina at home. So, opportunities are there. I think they're still, all things considered, in a pretty good spot overall. Let's see if we have some questions today. Looks like we might. Josh Weaver says, Muss Bus got a tune-up to say the least. Yeah, I tell you what. Eric Musselman is not a happy camper when he loses games, but, I'm not sure how many times he's been in the situation where he's lost back-to-back games in that fashion, like he did last week. And he was dejected and upset, and honestly, he was searching for answers. It wasn't for a lack of trying. I mean, they threw everybody on the roster out there on the floor and tried different combinations and different things, and you got a couple games in a row there where it's just not working. And you come back to your home floor against a team you already beat, and you get down by 19 in the first half. And, man, anybody who watched that game, you're looking at it for that first 15 minutes thinking, what the heck is going on? Imagine what that man was thinking. But they figured it out. Like I said, a lot to work on still, but you got to be happy with the response and the grit and the fight. And those guys, when they play like that, and Musselman said it, like he said, I would take that effort and energy that Arkansas had in the second half up against anyone. I'd take it anywhere. I would too. That's the team that can go knock off, the Tennessees and the LSUs of the world. Consistency. Got to find it. Lisa Cup Hancock says, so much better, in my opinion, with Vanover out. Yeah, I'm up and down on that with Connor. The last few games obviously were really bad matchups for him, in terms of having to try to defend those guys who are just so athletic and hybrid forwards that can shoot threes and, drive it at you and things like that. At the same time, I look at Arkansas's defense. It's not like anybody else they threw out there was doing any better, right? Now that you have Justin Smith back, though, and Jalen Williams continuing to emerge and becoming more of an offensive threat, I really like that combination at the 4 and 5. I really do. I don't think that completely buries Vanover necessarily, but like I said, maybe it's a situation where those are spot minutes. Can he come in and give you a spurt, knock down a 3 or 2, block a shot? Certain matchups work for him. I didn't think he was bad, really, when he was in there last night. I just thought Jalen Williams has emerged, and I thought he was incredible. But Vanover, there are going to be some games that are more favorable for him moving forward. I'm not sure about Vanderbilt. He'd probably be okay in there. But Mississippi State, Texas A&M, those are some of those teams that play really slow. They got some of those big clunkers in there. So, especially with Smith back to kind of help him out in the post and on help side and rotations and things like that, maybe you can get a spark offensively from Connor where it's not a liability issue on defense. I think we're still going to continue to see him, but yeah, last night with that group they had with Williams in there in the second half, I thought they were incredible. David Weather says, Sills, I know, about time, right? You just love Desi, such a good kid, and with the energy and the passion that he's brought, he's a home state guy. He's been here for 3 years, and you see him in those slumps that he's had, over the course of the last couple of weeks. You hate that for him. You know how good he can be. You know how much he cares and how much it means to him. It was really good to see him bust out. Billy D. Wilkerson, hey, it was a great comeback. Sure was. Yeah, that was great. To come back from 19 down a dozen at the half, that's not easy, especially against a team like Auburn who typically shoots threes at the rate that they do. We talked about Arkansas's three-point defense. Oh, man, it had really been a struggle. I think they're allowing opponents to shoot about 37% from three in SEC play. That ain't good. And they were knocking down about 9 or 10 of them a game. I thought Arkansas did a really nice job defending the three. Like I said, the adjustment they made going to that half-court trap and harassing Sharif Cooper there was great. It was great. They had the guys that they wanted taking the shots, and Arkansas kind of dictated who was taking the shots for Auburn, which I thought was really impressive. They had Javon Franklin, another Arkansas native, who knocked down 2 threes, but Musselman said, hey, he hasn't made one all year. We'll live with that shot. It was good to see. Casey Humphrey says, less Vanover, more Jalen Williams, and Vance Jackson, please. Yeah, again, Jalen Williams, especially if he's going to start, he's cutting down on the turnovers, getting more comfortable with the ball in his hands, and if he's becoming more of an offensive threat, which I think he can. I actually think he's a guy you can throw it to the post, and he can get you a bucket with a jump hook. But, his ability, hey, you get an open three, take that thing and shoot it, man. Musselman talked about how it's so important for him right now to have his feet set. He did last night. It looked good. Being a little more aggressive. I think defenders right now are probably looking at him saying, this guy's not trying to score. He'll sneak up on you. Jalen Williams is going to be a really good player. And then Vance, with him, it's all about consistency and performing on the defensive end. Well, a little bit of that pressure is taken off of him now that Justin Smith is back. Justin Smith is going to draw the Trendon Watfords of the world. Vance Jackson doesn't have to worry about that. He gets the other guy. And so if he can come in and knock down some threes, again, maybe in shorter spurts, give you a little bit of pop off the bench, I agree. I think it's a good look. Danny Guyan says, at this time, they are not an NCAA team. I assume you mean NCAA tournament. Yeah, they are, I guess, according to the analytics. Now, they certainly didn't look like it last week. I won't argue with you there. They did not look like it, and quite honestly, even in the win last night, like I said, there's a lot for this team to work on. If they really want to get themselves in a position to be a factor come March, they have to start bringing it consistently, and they have to prove that they can knock off the top-tier teams in this league. They got the opportunities. They have to do it now. The potential is there. Michelle Rava, shout out to the fiance, says, okay, so we see that they can compete and do well at times. I know it's so early to tell. If they keep it up, what are your thoughts on March Madness? Yeah, I kind of stick to that. To me, it's still a little bit of wait and see, kind of prove it mode. I think that's probably how a lot of, people who do the seeding and the evaluations and things like that feel right now. Okay, everyone recognizes the potential. Time to prove it. Hope they do. Earl Huey says, what are your thoughts on the upcoming Oklahoma State game? Woo Pig Suey from Colorado Springs. Love Colorado Springs, by the way. This Oklahoma State game, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, I thought, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I hoped that at this point in the season, Oklahoma State would be down a little bit. They aren't NCAA tournament eligible. So, you think you get to a certain point in the season, they're like, whatever. We're just going to play it out, ride it out. But they're not. They're playing really well. So, obviously, Arkansas is going to have their hands full, defending Cade Cunningham, probably the number 1 overall pick. Teammates with Moody in high school, so maybe it actually makes sense for those guys to be matched up. You might see Tate on him also. But, if Arkansas is able to disrupt him in a way that they were able to disrupt Sharif Cooper last night, put yourself in a good spot. I think it also depends how you play before that, right? So you just beat Auburn. Let's say you go get a road win at Vanderbilt and then take care of business against Ole Miss in the midweek. Well, then, you got a little bit of swagger going, right? 3 wins in a row. You're feeling good going in there. That it's a great opportunity for you, but it's not going to impact you in terms of conference play. So they might be able to go in there and play free and loose and sneak out a victory, and that would be just a huge win if they can pull it off. Won't be easy, though. Dave McDaniel says, slumps over. I hope so. Edward Huckabee says, Woo Pig Suey, great win last night. Go Hogs. Hey, Curtis. Hey, Edward, hope you're doing well. How's McCrory? Michael Kopesky says, got to have the state boys show out and carry the Hogs through the SEC schedule. They sure looked good yesterday. We talked about Desi a little bit. Devo, Jalen Williams, the contributions they made. Moody, again, didn't have his best game, was held to 5 points, and, he struggled from the floor. And I thought Auburn did a really good job of crowding him and really, kind of making it tough on him in terms of getting his shot off. They were kind of daring him, I thought, to, hey, if you're going to be a factor here, you're going to have to blow by me and go make a play at the rim. Well, he did. If you remember the one, he caught on the right wing and just ripped it through, drove right by the guy, and went and hammered the dunk. That was impressive. When people talk about Moody being a first-round pick and one and done and everything like that, a lot of people turn to, well, he can't create his own shot. Well, no, he can. He needs to work on that and continue to improve it and hone it in. But he showed last night he can put it on the floor and go make a play. It was good. Michael also says, Desi Sills playing good equals a Hogs W. What's Arkansas's record when Sills struggles? I bet not good. I guarantee you that's the case. As I think about it, I don't think nobody played well against Missouri. I can't remember how he did against Tennessee, but certainly didn't play his best in those 2 games last week. So there is a correlation there. Like I said, keep talking about who's the leader on this team. Who's going to take over? Who's the one that's going to slap the floor, and lock down defensively and get the guys going and bring the energy and the juice and things of that nature? Well, it's Desi. It's not that guys don't respond to other people who do that, but it's infectious with Desi Sills. So hopefully he continues to play he starts to play with more consistency moving forward. Tyler says, nail-biting finish, now on blood pressure medicine after watching the whole thing. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. It's hard not to get excited and get emotional about it. At least they won, right? It's okay to take that blood pressure pill after victory. Michelle says, I know obviously KK is out. We can say what if all day and it wouldn't matter, but just for fun, do you think KK would be seeing more playing time now if he was able to play? Yeah, I do. Actually, I do. I think one area of concern for the Razorbacks moving forward is still point guard play. Jalen Tate made some big plays last night. scored some big baskets. Still had 5 turnovers. 5 assists, but 5 turnovers. I don't know if SEC defenses are starting to figure him out a little bit, or if he's just having a little bit, of a sloppy stretch with the ball security. But he's got to get back to where he was early in SEC play and definitely in the non-conference when it comes to his assist-turnover ratio and getting that ball moving and getting the guys going through the flow of the offense. It's so important. But you got to have him out there, because when you get beyond Tate, it really becomes an issue. Note has been struggling with turnovers. He's got more turnovers than he does assists right now. I think he's a little bit better served playing off the ball and creating from the wing, where he can really focus on being a scorer, because that's what he is. He's such a good ball handler. He can run the point for you. But you'd probably rather have him on the wing where he can create shot opportunities offensively. And Devo, I think he's got a future at point guard. But, in crunch time, he had to take over that position a little bit last night, and he struggled. So, and that's just a freshman thing. He's going to learn from that experience and get a lot better from it. But, yeah, you definitely need more improved point guard play. I think KK would have been a guy. I'm not saying he would have been the complete difference maker last week, but might have been able to give you a little bit of a boost, with his speed and playmaking ability to get some more points on the board and get some guys involved for sure. MP Rich says, Woo Pig Suey, what a great line by Jalen when he tagged Desi as the War Eagle Slayer. I love that. The War Eagle Slayer. It's true. I mean, I don't know what it is about Auburn. We actually asked Desi about it too, and he's like, I don't know. He scored 45 points in 2 games against those guys, dominating them. The War Eagle Slayer. I love it. Jay Frazier says, we need the net rankings of our opponents to be better. Auburn being 70s and 80s doesn't help us enough. I agree. Yeah, I agree. You're doing a good job with the net rankings. There's 2 things that are really important. One is you got to avoid losses against the teams ranked low like that. And so Arkansas has done a really nice job of that. You also have to beat, some of those teams that are ranked with you are a little bit higher. And like I said, the further along we get in the season, those opportunities become more few and far between, so you got to take advantage when they come. Oklahoma State's the next one. Matt Worley says, where is Trey? Trey is probably on one of our 10 press conferences we have today. Today has been a wild day. So we've got, at 10 o'clock we had Hunter Yurachek. He kind of came on and gave his State of the Hogs address. At 11 o'clock we had a baseball thing with Dave Van Horn to preview the season opening tournament. There's, Mike Neighbors. Shout out to them, by the way, women's basketball, for adding a game with UConn next week. Coming to Bud Walton. That's awesome. There's a press conference with him. We got Musselman at 2, so it's certainly a busy day for us over here at HawgSports. Ben Brandon says, Curtis, congrats on the engagement. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I'm excited. I think she is too. Andrew Sawyer says, do you think that scoring is going to be a problem? Well, it could be. It has been as of late. Now, I thought they did some really good things again in the second half of just being more aggressive in terms of attacking the basket, had better spacing, more ball movement. They were playing with more purpose. They didn't seem as timid and back on their heels as they were in the last couple games. Teams capable of scoring. I don't think that they're the, top 10 scoring team in the nation that they were over the course of, the first month or so of the season in the non-conference, but they're not that bad, okay, as they showed last week. So I think this could be a team that's in the upper half of the SEC and, offensively for sure. Got to be a little bit more physical and got to be able to finish around the rim. A little bit better in that regard last night, but, you got to get the easy ones. Sam Temple says, what you doing, or how you doing, Kurt? What would help Vanover get out of this slump? Well, he's got to play his way out of it. Musselman talked about how productivity is going to dictate the minutes moving forward. And really what I think would help Vanover get out of the slump is to have a big performance defensively when he gets in. Whether that's a start or he comes in off the bench, I think if he gets in a situation where boom, he's grabbing rebounds, he's swatting a couple shots away, you're getting some good things going for him defensively, then I think that offense is going to start to come. And it's going to be predicated by matchups. So we've seen over the course of the last week, how he can struggle to defend some of those more athletic and perimeter-based guys. Well, guess what? When Arkansas plays teams like Mississippi State and A&M, who have, some of those more big traditional post players, it's kind of going to be flipped to a degree to where they have to then respect Connor Vanover and guard him as a perimeter shooting threat. So then maybe that's when we start to see Connor start rattling off some of those threes. He's capable. He's still going to have a role on this team. It might not be, the 30 minutes a game near double-double guy that we had at the beginning of the season, but can still bring a ton of value. Robert James Hurst says, congratulations, Curtis. You got me looking forward to your show just like I do Trey's show. All of y'all at HawgSports are killing it. Thank you. We really appreciate that. It's been amazing being on the team with these guys for the last several months. And, actually when we had Hunter Yurachek on today and he kind of did his State of the Hogs address in the beginning, he was talking about, the COVID and how it's impacted things and how they've battled through it and stuff like that. And I was getting flashbacks because my first day on the job, we had Hunter Yurachek for a press conference. I'm trying to figure out how to get onto the Zoom call, right? And things like that, and listening, to him talk about what was to come with football season and the uncertainty and things like that. And, it's been an adjustment for us here. Just press conferences are different. The way we cover things are different. We're limited, in our ability to have the full staff at games and things like that. So, we've adapted and I think it's still been good. And, at the end of the day, we want to put out a product that you guys appreciate. And, hearing things like that definitely makes us feel good. So thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Well, I think we just about covered it again. Big win for Arkansas. Hopefully, I tell you what, hopefully everybody's feeling a little bit better about where the Hogs are. I'm kind of in wait-and-see mode, like I said, cautiously optimistic maybe. We'll see what the weekend holds. They got to get it done on the road. Got Vanderbilt on Saturday. Ole Miss next week. We'll be back after that midweek game again. We'll always do that, and then we'll be previewing a really critical game against Oklahoma State. So should be another great show. Appreciate it today. Love all the questions and comments. That really helps keep things going. Like having you guys involved. Appreciate it. You remember, throw us a like, rate, and review, any of those things. We will be back probably a week from today, hopefully feeling good about where the Razorbacks are. Again, this has been Curtis Wilkerson with Hog Hoops Live, and we will see you next time.